this drill is just going to be about to reach your goals. I feel like it's so easy in the beginning of the year to just set a round number, like wanting to have a GCI of $100,000 or wanting to hit a certain volume. But what I want to do is show you guys how attainable your goals actually are.
But what is GC?
Gross commission income. So how much you want to make when selling houses.
The end result, like.
Yep. What goes in the basket? Oh. If you're on a travel sheet of paper, there's one right there. Alright. So think of it like creating a vision board, but without the magazines and like cutting out a Ferrari and gluing it and being like, this is my goal. This is kind of in the same realm of that, but a little bit more numbers oriented. Okay. The first thing you need to do is understand yours. So expenses can look like rent, mortgage, KW fees, systems you might be paying for, utilities, anything along those lines. I'm going to have everybody jot yours down. It's okay if you have estimates in the first bubble. You're not going to turn this in, so just keep it for you. The first, or it says monthly expenses.
Oh.
Sorry.
Total household, everything?
Yes.
Okay.
How much it costs for you to live a month. I know it's scary when you put all those numbers down. Then you think of all the subscription services. I did it with year. I'm like, oh my gosh, Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, all of these things. It's terrifying. You can try your best. If you can only think of like your mortgage, your utility, like a round number for it, that's fine too. If you think like, okay, it might be about $2,000 a month, that's fine. Maybe $10,000 a month, that's probably.
You guys carry like liability insurance for yourselves or no?
We do have
You
insurance.
Yeah, okay.
So and that comes through the brokerage.
Yeah.
The fees.
No, with other
Well, it
brokerages,
is.
yeah.
It is for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we pay a certain amount every month.
Oh, I got you.
So
Yeah. License renewal fees, those are good examples of expenses. So if everyone's ready to move on to the expenses part, I'm going to have you guys jump down. Annual aspirations. So think of this as like your wants, something you really want to do this year. Maybe it's save up to go on vacation. That could be around $5,000, $10,000. Save for a down payment on a new car. I know Jim was talking about chartering a private flight to family reunion someday. Just saving towards that. Buying an engagement ring, getting married, paying for a wedding. There's tons of lump sum things that happen in a year. So what does that look like for you, and what is the cost associated with it? I wouldn't say just I want to buy a pair of Louis Vuitton heels. Say specifically the cost of it, because this is numbers oriented. Does anybody have any fun aspirations for this year?
I'm gonna send my daughter to college.
Oh, that's awesome.
that's a good one.
Daughter getting married in Alaska. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So does all of Alaska, I know they have days where it's like all sunshine and then other days where it's
like 10:30 and it gets dark at like 3 in the afternoon. My son lives there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in June it'll be mostly light.
So black curtain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So basically those are just your needs and your wants as of right now on your piece of paper. For your monthly expenses, I might have jumped too soon. Make sure you're multiplying that by 12. Please use a phone calculator. It's so much easier. And then you'll get your annual expenses. Because what I need is a number all the way at the bottom for your total expenses and aspirations. That's where you'll see the line for total.
Just a trick. Really? Cool. That's
I'm sorry, is that okay if I leave?
Yeah. So hopping on down, we're gonna calculate your annual financial needs. Obviously, you're gonna have 12 months of your annual expenses multiplied. Then you're gonna have your goals. So add the cost of your financial aspirations, and then you'll have your total. Down here is what you'll see on your spreadsheet or on your piece of paper in front of you, where it's your annual expenses plus your annual aspirations equals your annual financial goal.
So you take your total, the 12, that annual expense, and add in your annual aspirations, right?
Yep. Does anybody have any questions about it so far? I promise it's gonna get more interesting soon. I'll give you a couple seconds to add it. Moving on. So we're breaking down your target into units and volume. So you have your total here, which is a combination of your monthly expenses and your annual aspirations all together in one big lump sum number. For some of us, that might look like $100,000. For others, it might look like 500. It doesn't matter. You don't have to share out loud. But what we're going to do is we're going to take those numbers and translate them into real estate. We want a volume, we want a unit, because that's what we're aiming to hit by the end of 2025. Does that make sense? Okay. So, what we're going to do is we're going to divide your annual financial needs by your average commission percentage. Since this is recorded, I'm not going to go in and mention what that might be. It's whatever makes sense for you. It could be 25%, whatever you want.
So we take the annual financial goal.
So about the average transaction, what is that? How many do you want to close per month?
So for the next one down, that's going to be, so we're at like the second, you guys, you can see like on this paper, your financial goal divided by your average commission equals volume needed.
Right.
So from that, volume needed, and then what your average transaction looks like personally is the next step. So that could be different agent to agent, but in Delaware, that's 50. So that's 50,000. Yeah, about.
Oh, that's talking about the price of the home.
Yep. Did I lose anybody yet?
No, easy.
Are we ready to move on?
Is that what's telling us how much we have to sell?
Yeah, that's the volume.
So that's a year, the number we come up with, how many units we have to close in a year?
So
This is like bare minimum, right? Like
Yeah.
cover your
and your aspiration.
Okay.
Yep. From there, so we're gonna jump.
Why can't I live on what I need? Because I'm
getting something wrong. Honestly, but so jumping over, you're gonna take your volume needed and divide it by your average transaction. So that's gonna be the cost, like the volume for a sale. Average in Delaware is about 350,000. If you sell higher or lower price point houses, you can adjust that accordingly. So some things where you might go wrong in your annual expenses, food. I eat a lot of my money. Dining out,
we do too.
recreational things like going to the movies, going to concerts. If you look at your bank statement, you see all the money going out in all different areas. It's not always recurring subscriptions or recurring things like a mortgage or electricity bill. That's where annual expenses can be a little wavering. Okay, now that we have our volume and units needed, we are going to flip over our paper. So that's where you're going to need. Is everybody with me?
Yeah.
Good? Okay. That's okay. What do you need?
units needed. So Yeah, but Brian needed was 3,000, but that sound right.
Did you multiply, or did you divide it by 0.025 and you didn't, or
I did mine in 3%.
so
Yeah.
0.03?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
That gave me
Yeah.
and my 11,300,000 divided by the 50 gave me 32 units. So
Do
that's
you
what
have-
we did, right?
Do you have an iPhone? Because you can put like the first one.
Okay. Dang.
Yep, of course. Let's find it.
Are your numbers making more sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then she said average.
Yeah.
This down to like 3.
Okay. Now this is all going to start making a lot more sense for everyone because we're starting to move away from math, I promise. So on the other side of your paper, you're going to see these 3 bubbles. Under the first line, you're going to see annual volume. That's where I want you to put the number that you came up with on the second line, where it says volume needed. Mhm. Okay. So from there, I want us all to come up with some ideas for how you're going to get a buyer. It could be something as simple as hosting an open house, first time buyer seminar. What are some ideas? Feel free to eat all them out.
Of how to get clients.
Of how to get buyers specifically.
Okay.
Okay. Sis?
That's your spirit.
Yeah, sure. That's a good one.
Hey, social media marketing.
Yeah.
Buyer seminar.
Buyer seminar. Referral. What kind of referrals?
Referral from other agents.
I like that.
Facebook ads.
Yeah. Love that. Dynamite. See what else I can. Lending partners? Anyone ever gotten leads from lending partners?
Mhm.
And the last one I have is networking, like events, hosting buyer events or for your sphere or people that you've already sold houses to. Now we're going to shift gears to selling side. I feel like the selling side, I could come up with so many more than I could the buying side. But yep, that one died. Right. Probably to get sellers.
Visibles.
Is been.
Buyers.
It's the buyers. Some of these will be double. That's fine.
Postcards.
Mailer.
Like forms.
Circle prospecting?
You can get referrals too for sellers, right?
Yep. Just a side note for referrals, if you aren't in agent-based Facebook groups, join now. Like the first thing you should do when you leave this room is to do it. because there's referrals being offered constantly. And as long as you're looking, and you can search for specific words like Delaware, Cecil County, Newcastle, Elkton, wherever it may be, and it'll flag them, and you can categorize it by most recent, so you can be one of the first ones to do it. And I always look the agent up and their cell phone number and call. Agents' numbers are public record online and really easy to find if you know where they're located.
Things you talked about at one of your other classes I sat in on, was partnering with for sale by owners to do open houses with them.
Yeah.
So you can get the buyers as leads.
No, that's where like
Right.
But it also, eventually when they put their.
Right, exactly.
Market,
yeah.
you can use that as well. They're gonna come to you rather than another agent.
Yeah. Door knocking, great for sellers. Sorry, my handwriting is get awful.
Could you give me more, I guess, information on how successful you can be with door knocking? Because I did sales for 15 years door knocking. Like, I sold every type of product at the door you could think of. But when it comes to real estate, I just feel like that hits a little differently at the door.
I know what you mean, and I think door knocking works best in combination with other lead generating tactics,
Right.
with other marketing tactics. So in combination with postcards or mailers or community events, things like
Open house, or open an open house.
Yeah.
Go like day before or whatever and go and walk around the whole neighborhood and say,
Right.
invite them home.
Yeah.
You know, different things like that.
Yeah, so just tapping into other things. I think if you do door knocking alone, it can be a little
Yeah.
iffy. Also, make sure if you're door knocking, the neighborhood's not a no solicitation neighborhood. They should have a sign right under the entrance, because then you're. Yeah,
Are you technically not soliciting? I mean, I guess it depends what you're doing, but
it depends, and it depends on the things.
sure.
Because you don't want to argue with them, because some people might take any knock on the door as a solicitation. Technically, soliciting business and inviting someone to an open house are two completely different things. But what is your end goal in inviting them to the open house? Getting business. So it really depends. I would just err on the side of not if it's no solicitation, because you're just going to meet people. A lot of people move into neighborhoods like that specifically so that they're not bombarded. Good question. Yeah. We can also have paid lead services for sellers.
That's also for buyers too.
Yeah. And divorce attorneys.
Really?
Yes. Also, another thing that I haven't
State.
heard people ask about, financial planners. If you don't drop off one of your first-time home buyer packets to a financial planner, you're doing something wrong. Because a lot of people will meet with a financial advisor or financial planner before making the first step on something huge like that. So if you just go over, drop off some cookies, some cupcakes, whatever, and your first-time homebuyer packets, they'll probably give their information along with yours to any buyer that comes through.
Now, you said divorce lawyers was for more for sellers.
Normally with a divorce, they do have to sell their asset. I won't say all the time, but I'll say 50% of the time they're, estate attorneys, they almost always have to unless somebody's buying them out. Same thing though.
Funeral home. Seriously.
Really? Oh, yeah.
How's it going?
Any other ideas for how we're gonna get buyer or seller leads? I think there's two that are waiting for it.
How you doing?
Alright, So are we good to move on? Okay. I told you I wasn't gonna be here right now. Okay, so I'm gonna jump on over to here. For example's sake, I'm gonna do just over for a million, so like I'll do a volume of 4 million. And for those units, it would be 12. If your units are higher than 12, you're probably gonna need to pick targets. If they're less than 12, you're gonna pick less. It's kind of just how it works. From here, we're gonna allocate our units. So we've already come up with these ideas for seller leads or buyer leads and where we can get transactions from. We're going to take those ideas and put them over on the drawing board, or what I like to call our roadmap. So for buyers, I'm going to just put 1 for here. I'll do 4. And then I'll do 4 for sellers. Yours is not going to look identical because these numbers are going to be different for you. And what makes sense for your business might be different than everybody else in this room. Because I know for me, I'm not a huge door knocker. That's just not who I am. But there might be people in here that absolutely love it. I know that I get a lot of leads from financial planners. Some of you might have never even thought about it until today. That's fine. Just pick and choose what makes sense for you. This isn't about forcing you to do something you don't like. So if you know that your team does paid lead services, you better put that on there because you're not really working for it, honestly. Your team's just supplying it for you. So that's where you're going to start drawing your tree of bubbles. And your units don't have to be split evenly between buyer and sellers. So if you're more listing heavy, put more on the seller side. If you're more buyer heavy, put more on the buyer side. I know some teams only allow agents to do buyers first. So if you're all buyer, go all buyer then. We have tons of ideas up here that you can tap into. But see, I am going to do 50-50 just for the sake of it. So I'll put open houses. Events. Journals. Social media. Sellers, I'll do business. Turn. So now is it all starting to make sense? We did all the math in the beginning to figure out what would be in the middle. That's what took up a lot of our time. But from here, what you can see is what your focus should be on. So let's say we have 4 of these up, or we have 8 bubbled up here total. So I don't even need 1 of these per month necessarily. I just know that I need maybe January and February, I need to focus on referrals. March, I need to focus on getting 1 person from events. Because when I came up with the $4 million volume, just for example's sake, it seems a lot harder to obtain when you're just talking in millions. And then when you're just talking in units, it's still a little unobtainable. So you're like, I haven't even sold 1 house. How the heck am I going to get to 12? It doesn't make sense. That's when your bubbles come into play. And you guys can take a picture of the whole board before you leave and have all these ideas just in the back end in case. Because now you know, wait, I don't need 1 person for mailers. I don't need 10. I don't need 20. I only need 2 contacts from an attorney to convert into actual closed transactions. We could go even further in this and say I need to make 100 phone calls in order to get 1 client. You can take it super granular so you can see the math because like Connor said, it is a numbers game. So when you start getting it smaller and smaller and smaller, it doesn't feel as big as that volume number is. Does that make sense for everybody? I know we went through this really, we're right at the half hour mark. If you guys have any questions for me. So I do this every year around December to set for the next year, and I put it in a frame and I leave it on my desk at work. So when I come in, if I ever am like, what am I doing? Where's my next client coming from? I'm feeling scattered or all over the place. I'm like, okay, one bubble at a time. I just have to do one bubble at a time. I only need 3 people to actually convert out of the 50 leads that I'm getting from social media or whatever those numbers are for you. It makes it easier because it's like looking at a whole pie and only having to eat it one bite at a time. Yep.
So do you recommend for new agents, like people that are just starting, what type of events could we do?
First time home buyer seminars are great.
First time home buyers.
And you can partner with lenders or attorneys to do them with you, so it's not just you standing up there talking to people. You can broadcast them on social media and boost it so that you have a really high attendance rate. I've seen people do raffles and things like that too.
Also, if you don't have to host your own event. So let's say there's a big event going on, like there's the fireworks that are going to happen 4th of July. You can have, I'm going to be at this picnic, then put out your blanket and have a whole bunch of things there and say, meet me there. I'll save you a spot. We can all, and you can play off the other people's events that won't cost you a lot.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Have everybody else pay for it. Have everybody else pay for it, basically. Like, don't work with one lender. Work with multiple ones who fits your personality, and we've got to look out for you, not just sit there take a photo like I do. And I love to go ahead.
To do any real estate because you are everywhere. Everywhere I go, Steve is there. He's got a picture.
I've been doing a lot of posts and stuff like that. I just control it before they post it. So if you ever see me in Dover and then I'm here in like 2 minutes later, they're already posting it while I'm driving here. So it's like 15 minutes to approve it and then they send it in. If I do take control over it, you'll see like misspelling and stuff like that. So I don't know how to spell.
Oh my gosh,
I do this too. I change different clothes too. I have like 5 different wardrobe too. So that throws people up because there's no rule on Facebook saying you gotta post the same day. Right? That's my trick.
Steve, quick changing tomorrow, quick to go to the next event.
Waldo, where's Steve?
Yeah.
Crowd, Steve's there somewhere.
Yeah. Like, where's Steve?
I need to back that, put on the calendar not to miss this class. You guys are powerful, like not just powerful, like strong leaders that's gonna look out for your future. Not here just to fill time. So that's what I mean. Huh? I love KW no matter what, but I'm not moving out of my office. They had to move, push me out of it. But you got the teams you gotta have here, it's sick. It's like wow, you have like leaders like that in one not even empowering, like one building. It's amazing.
Someone needs to record Steve's saying that because does anybody else have any questions? I know this one was intense and math heavy, and I'm sorry, but I feel like it really helps me. I'm a different person too, just seeing it all laid out. Yes, I made mine like all colorful and like matches like my branding. Be proud. We get the roadmap, you're good, like, because I get scatterbrained fast. All right, well, feel free to take a picture of the board if you need ideas for other bubbles later on throughout the year, but you're free to leave. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it.
I'm at